All right, welcome back for chapter 4, part 2, which is theory. So we're just going to go quickly and briefly over how each theoretical perspective is going to look at different types of societies and how they view society overall. And so again, if we think about functionalism, what is functionalist, true purpose, and ideology? And that is, how can we make society functional and working and consistent and efficient? And so society needs interconnectivity of all its elements. The collective conscious is the communal beliefs, morals, and attitudes of society, right? And so here is going to be heavy on conformity. We need society to run functionally, greatly, whatever. And so in order to do that, everyone has to agree on the rules and the norms and the ideas, and we have to do our part. And so social integration is important because strong ties between people create more connected communities. So bond is super important. And so in order to create bonds, we all have to get on the same page and believe in the same thing. And so to remove that conflict overall. And so functionalists are going to focus on how society can run smoothly, and that is to creating strong bonds and communal beliefs. And so one of the theorists that go along with functionalists is Durkheim. And so Durkheim has two concepts to know that are really important that you'll hear. And so the first one is mechanical solidarity. And so this means that communities have a strong bond and low division of labor created by strong shared values. They tend to think and act the same. And so here is going to be strong conformity and agreement about their values and norms. So for example, more as hunter-gatherer groups. Organic solidarity are communities that are based off of social and economic difference, where specializations are central, and so differing values are able to coexist here. So here, it's okay that not everyone knows how to do everything. It's like specializations are good. Like they're the doctor, they're a vet, right? They each have their own job, and that's good. And that those values are able to exist here. And so here people might be more individualistic, but still somehow contributing to the community. And so Durkheim also looked at anomie, which is normlessness and the lack of collective conscious. And so Durkheim argues that when there's anomie in society, that it creates social chaos because there's not a sense of this strong bond. If we don't have this strong bond holding us together, then our society falls apart. So conflict theory. So conflict theorists argue societies are divided by two groups, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. And these tensions of social class cause social revolutions. And so capitalism is an economic system, but while it's an economic system, it's really ruled by one group, which is the bourgeoisie. And so this is going to be seen as a dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. And so as we go through and kind of understanding, well, what is Marx talking about? And all right, let me pause it. And so Marx was concerned with a few things when we're talking about him as a theorist within conflict theory. And the first one is that alienation. So that within capitalism, it creates alienation on multiple levels. And so he argues that people get alienated from the product that they're making. So because you kind of just like this, essentially an extent of the machine that you're just kind of processing whatever you're doing, especially in factories. So that they're alienated from the product that they're making. They don't know where it's coming from, where it's going. They're alienated from the conditions of their job, that they have to be so kind of out of it that they aren't able to protest or engage in things that are unequal in their workplace. They are alienated from other people, right? In works, you're like, oh, you're not supposed to be talking to anyone. You should kind of put like, do your job and that's it. And then people are alienated from themselves in this process, that they kind of lose touch of themselves. They don't have any free time. They're just working. By the time they get home, you just want to turn your brain off, and all this creates alienation. That capitalism creates this alienation, and it's a huge problem for humans and for human society. Marx also has two concepts that you should know, and this is called false consciousness and class consciousness. And so false consciousness is a condition in which beliefs, ideals, or ideology of a person are not in the person's best interest, where the bourgeoisie imposes the ideas of the proletariat. And so when capitalism is prominent, people, the elite, are going to put ideas out there that poor people, middle class people are going to agree with or promote, even though it's against their best interest. So I think we can see this a lot in society, when poor people in the middle class are kind of pushed against each other, instead of understanding that there's like this whole other entity, institution, groups that are kind of making the calls and are truly in power. And so we're too busy infighting to kind of see like, hey, we actually are in the same thought process. So things like blaming the homeless for everything, things like blaming people that are on social welfare, even though, you know, the amount of money that really comes or goes to those institutions are minuscule compared to the other social institutions that are getting lobbied and all this other stuff, right, in terms of information. And so, yes, and so we kind of get pitted against each other and looking and pointing the finger at the other person instead of looking at the bourgeoisie. Then we have class consciousness, which is once you're aware, you woke, you're aware of these inequalities, you're aware of these institutions, right? Okay, Weber. So Weber, very interesting, and we touched a little bit about it during the first week. And so Weber says, and kind of critiques Marx's definition of class, because for Marx it was only the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, and for Weber it was like, no, it's more complex in an industrialized society. It's just not the people who own land and everyone else. And so for him it's about class status, or class and status and power. So it makes it a little bit more complex. You know, is your position, career in this society held as prestigious? Do you have power? Can you make decisions that impact other people's lives? And of course, how much income and where you lie in the economic ladder. And so, and the critique that Weber did have of capitalism is that people become so rationalized, where society is built around logic and efficiency rather than morality and tradition. So everything becomes a transaction. Everything, it has a rational and economic logic. And this is historically wasn't the case before capitalism. And so this is seen through rigid routines and strict designs. This leads to a mechanized work environment and focuses on producing identical products in every location. And we'll talk about McDonaldization, and that kind of talks about this bureaucratization and the processing of making everything the same and efficient. And you kind of have this everywhere you go, like a McDonald's, like, you know, you're gonna get you're not a good product, but you know you're gonna get the same product for the most part. So it's interesting, and just how capitalism has went into society in other forms and how it's changed us. That wasn't always the case. So interesting things about theory and society. Okay, that wraps up this lecture. Have a good one. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.